Hey, this is Edna White. I am so glad you're with me today. Today, we're going to talk about how generational trauma affects your finances and how to heal it. Now, I know I always talk about finances, and I don't know why, but I think it really affects me, and I know that it affects other people, being that out of I want to say 100% of my clients that I deal with, that I work with that have to do with trauma, and they're working on their entrepreneurial part of their lives, it really shows up. So I wanted to talk about this because generational trauma can affect your financial behaviors and how you feel about money. But today I'm going to share with you how to heal that, okay? There's a lot of conversation on and off social media about breaking generational curses, habits, patterns, intergenerational, issues. It's all over the place. But one thing I found out that many people share that it's there, but they don't share how to get out of it. They don't show how or share how that, to acknowledge that behavior, to know where it comes from, and then what to do. The steps. They tell how, but they don't tell the steps. So I'm going to share with you, and I know you probably heard this in many of my other videos, what generational trauma is. And I'm going to make it really quick. With generational trauma, which is called intergenerational trauma by certain people, and I'm going to say, I'll say everybody, they kind of intergenerationally kind of put that on us. Okay. Emotions and behaviors are linked to adverse, even terrifying events that pass down through generations within a family. And terrifying means someone's father could have beaten them all their lives till they were teenagers. And then they turn out to be serial killers or something like that. I'm not saying it's true, just saying that's terrifying. Okay, but even perpetrators who've perpetrated their own children or have been perpetrated by their parent was perpetrate their children, and so on and so on and so on, and keep doing it until they die. That's terrifying. All right, and behaviors, emotions and behaviors, and which this is what I really do believe. Emotions and behaviors with this going on, right? Intergenerationally or generationally, I think we don't have control of those. So sometimes that, being a black or a brown person, we are compounded with those intergenerational things, right? Racism, slavery, those things, we're kind of compacted with those things first, and then so kind of shuffle down to us, even though we didn't experience them, right? So emotionally, because I work with, businesses a lot that deal with stress. I work with stress management, how to manage your stress. But the ideal point of it is, where does the stress come from? And I remember myself walking around and saying, what the heck? I am so mad about the world. Someone said to me, I had this resting bitch face. And they said to me, Edna, why are you so mad with the world? When they asked me that question, I really had to think about it. I had nothing to be mad at. Not really. I did, but I didn't. But not to have the resting bitch face. So I was like, oh my gosh, I really have to investigate this. And the emotions that were involved were things that were passed down to me, things that I had taken on, that I was worried about my mom and her situation, and things that I was taking on that were not my responsibility, made me have these adverse emotions and these bad behaviors. So what are those adverse emotions and the adverse emotions and these bad behaviors? What do they come out to be? Habits. Then habits become patterns, and patterns that go round and round and round. And if you don't adjust them, if you don't get a hold of them, they can really wreak havoc with your life, in your love life, in your relationships, every relationship, including business personal, romantic, all of it. Friendships, all of it, it affects it. And it affects how you deal with finances. So, now that I say that, I'm going to talk to you about what generational financial trauma is. It's an experience. It's just like me. I had an experience with, seeing my parent, or I should say my parents, how one didn't give to the other because of, that wasn't their kid, and then my mom had to figure out how to do this, and this, and work this hard, and then still have this glamorous life that they're supposed to have. I watched her be able to etch that and manipulate that, and at the end, the children suffered. Us, me, all of us, we experienced money shame, right? And it started to make me feel bad that, hey, she's struggling like this and to have money, and then all of a sudden just do everything with it, and then we'll still have no lights, still have no electricity, still have no heat. We still struggle, still lose our house. All those are indications that there's generational financial trauma. Okay? It's a response to a cumulative harm of a person's wealth building capability and the relationship with money. So I was experiencing that, right? And then at the age of 13, I go to church and they tell me money is the root of all evil. Everybody there is poor. So that's another accumulation of harming to me that stopped me from being a wealth builder, that stopped me from being a kingdom builder. All right, it stopped me from being capable of having a relationship and understanding what money really was. So generational trauma is the biggest impact in our relationship with finances. One of the biggest. I could tell you that from my experience, from the clients that I've worked with, their experiences. Okay? It's financial irresponsibility. We learn this by observing and reenacting the things we saw. Our parents, our grandparents, and it's about what we think, the ways that we think, or even what we believe is attainable with our finances. So it's limited, Generational trauma, I'm getting tongue-tied because I'm thirsty, around money can also stem from societal and systemic causes. Another example for me, on top of that, they said that you'd never be anything more than a healthcare worker, because that's what most black people, usurp to. They go to that because that's where they can fit in, and they're servers, and what they really meant was, they go to human services because they're slaves. So that thinking, so seeing my mother go through that, then going to church and hearing that, and then society telling me this, layers of layers, right? Then as I'm working, right, seeing people get divorced because of money and not being able to navigate, I couldn't navigate poverty. I couldn't find any experience that was something that I could relate to. What I really had to do was retrain myself. I remember just thinking about this when the movie Crooklyn was around, and I love Crooklyn. I watch it all the time. It's one of my favorites. And how she had to go to the store with the food stamps. I don't remember a time I was ever embarrassed. I thought it was something we were supposed to have. So that didn't affect me as much as it did other people, or other kids. And it was like, you are not embarrassed using food stamps. What for? I'm not starving. I'm supposed to have them. So I remember what embarrassed me was going and standing online and waiting for the government cheese, right? That was so disgusting. All the foods that was so disgusting and bad for us. That embarrassed me as opposed to having food stamps and being able to get food. So that's just my little thing that I wanted to share with you. But that's all of compoundment of all ideas and thoughts and things that go on top of our financial trauma, right? being not able to go to scholastic programs or athletic programs due to lack of money. Oh my gosh, yes, right. That's another, compound of things that you can't attain, right? And with around that, around finances, and then coming out to your own, not being able to, when you grow up and you're a parent or whatever, trying to navigate poverty, right? So it's sort of like all of that stuff has to be taken off. It's like putting on every year of your life, putting on a different coat and not taking off the coat that you had on before. So think about that. At 5 years old, let's say, I think I started experiencing seeing my mom literally with finances and how she worked very hard, and then we had very little, and we're supposed to look big, that facade. I think I started seeing that at 12. So think about this. I grow up, right? This is in my 40s. I started realizing this. I still have a 12-year-old jacket on because I now see the habits that she's put on. So I got this 12-year-old jacket on. Then I see other things coming around. I'm 13. I put a 13-year-old jacket on. I'm still growing now. Then I put a 15-year-old jacket. Then I put a 16-year-old jacket. Then I put an 18-year-old jacket. Then I'm still wearing all these jackets on top of the age where I am, right? Financial traumas like that. So can think about you being a 30-year-old in a 12-year-old jacket. No matter if you grow or not, but just think about it. And it being under all the jackets every couple of years that you grow. Uncomfortable, and you can't navigate as you want to. You can't move your extremities like you want to. So think about that. So we're all affected by that. Disproportionately, groups who are disproportionately, disproportionate, like Black people, like LGBTQ plus, indigenous people, any people of color that have experienced trauma, any people that have experienced trauma historically, they will feel this generational financial trauma. And it's still felt today for them. It's, statistically, average Black and Hispanic, Latino households earn 50% less than average white households. Members of the LGBTQ plus community face higher rates of workplace discrimination than any other, right? And it impacts their earning potential, impacts their ability to manage expenses, build savings, and buy homes. Still, Black women are paid on average 64 cents to every dollar that white, non-Hispanic men earn for the same job. Financial trauma is real, and it affects people with wealth or disposable income. So money trauma impacts everyone, including those with perceived wealth, especially instances where the subject has never had been heard about managing money. And what my pet peeve is about this whole educational system, and I can remember when I was in school, they had a program like that you'd learn how to manage money. You had to play on money and all of that. They had that, and they taught about what checks were. They don't have that now. So my pet peeve with this all is young people don't have this. Young people who will be handling money, who will be interviewing for apartments, should start at 14, 15 years old to learn what money really does and how to manage it. They don't have that for young people. That's a tagline for somebody out there to go and do something for the young people. Okay, so how does generational trauma affect you and your finances? Financial trauma affects how we feel and talk about money. Okay? I have so many clients, I ask them, how much do you make? They don't want to tell me. So who told you that you don't have to talk about your finances? Well, I was told it was inappropriate. I said, have you ever heard Donald Trump or anybody else, right? Anybody else say that what they weren't making? The only ones that don't talk about it are the impoverished, are the ones who don't know how to manage their money. Most people will say how much they make. And let me tell you, you don't have to tell anybody. It's public knowledge, whether you know it or not. So why don't you just say it? Whether it's not what you're supposed to be getting or what you're supposed to be getting. You have to do it.